Alright, so we'll pick up where we left off. Remember, we're working on number 49. We have the derivative of the natural log of this product. And recall that by the properties of logarithms, the log of a product is equal to the sum of the logs. So we can take that natural log of x times square root of x squared minus 1 and break it down into natural log of x plus the natural log of x squared square root of x squared minus 1. And then we can take the derivative of each of those terms individually. So we have the derivative of the natural log of x plus the derivative of the natural log of x squared minus 1 to the 1/2 power. And we can even work on that 1/2 power for the second term there and bring it down to the front. And so we would have the derivative of the natural log of x plus the derivative of 1/2 times the natural log of x squared minus 1. Now we don't have a property for the natural log of a difference. We have a property for the natural log of a quotient, which is the difference of the two logs. So we really can't do anything more with either of these except start to take the derivatives. And the first term is pretty easy, that we know by definition the derivative of the natural log of x is just 1 over x. And the derivative of 1/2 times the natural log of x squared minus 1, the 1/2 is a constant multiple, so it's just going to stay. So we're going to have 1 over x plus 1/2 times. Now the derivative of the natural log of x squared minus 1 is just 1 over x squared minus 1. So the derivative of the natural log of something is 1 over that something. And then we're going to multiply that by the derivative of the inside function, which is just 2x here. And when we begin to put that all together, we're going to get, you notice that the 2x and the 2 of the 1/2 will cancel. And you will wind up with x over x squared minus 1. Now if we were going to put these together into one expression, we would need to make sure we have a common denominator of x times x squared minus 1. And so we would multiply the first term by x squared minus 1, top and bottom, and we would get x squared minus 1 over x times x squared minus 1 for the first term. And the second term, we'd have to multiply top and bottom by x squared. So we would get plus, we'd have to multiply top and bottom by x, so we'd get x squared over x times x squared minus 1. And when we put it all together, we would get 2x squared minus 1 over x times x squared minus 1. Be very, very careful here. None of this cancels. The x's cannot cancel with that x. The 2x squared minus 1 is not the same thing as x squared minus 1. X squared minus 1 is not a factor of that, and so we can't cancel anything further, and that's where we end up. Now again, that end part was all just algebra, but again, it's something that you can do and you should practice on. All right, so that brings us through problem number 49. And I'm going to scroll up just a little bit and we'll work on problem number 51 now. And so here we're looking for the derivative of the natural log of x over x squared plus 1. Now I mentioned before we don't have a property of logs for the log of a difference, but we do have a property of logs for the log of a quotient. And the log of a quotient, a over b, is the natural log of a minus the natural log of b. And we say the natural log of a quotient is equal to the difference of the logs. And so we can rewrite this. We can rewrite the natural log of x over x squared plus 1 as the natural log of x minus the natural log of x squared plus 1. And we can take the derivative of that expression and break it down by taking the derivative of each term. And we know how to take the derivative of the natural log of x. That's just 1 over x. And the natural log of the derivative of the natural log of x squared plus 1 is 1 over x squared plus 1 times the derivative of x squared plus 1, which is 2x. And I'll just go ahead and write that on the top. Again, if we wanted to simplify, we would need to multiply top and bottom of the left-hand term by x squared plus 1, and that would give us x squared plus 1 over x times x squared plus 1. And the second term, we'd have to multiply top and bottom by x, and that would give us 2x squared over x times x squared plus 1. Putting it all together, and I'll put the constant term first, and we get 1 minus x squared over x times x squared plus 1. The 1 minus x squared can be factored, but it can't cancel with anything.